Imagine paying over $2,000 for a stationary bicycle, only for it to become the world's most expensive clothes rack. In January 2021, Peloton was an unstoppable juggernaut, boasting a jaw-dropping $50 billion valuation that made it worth more than Ford and Adidas combined. It was the ultimate status symbol of the quarantine era, turning living rooms into exclusive, high-energy fitness sanctuaries. But what happens when the world reopens, the music stops, and a tech darling loses its spin? This is the chaotic story of how a corporate titan lost 94% of its value in just 24 months. It is a wild tale of hubris, tragic accidents, and catastrophic miscalculations. Make sure to stay until the very end of this video, where we will break down the crucial business and life lessons learned from this historic economic collapse. To truly understand how Peloton fell so spectacularly, we have to look back at how this fitness revolution actually began. It all started in 2012 with a simple but frustrating realization by founder John Foley. As a busy executive with kids, Foley loved high-energy boutique cycling classes like SoulCycle, but he rarely had the time to book a bike or commute to the studio. He realized that while high-end indoor cycling was booming, it was exclusive, expensive, and structurally limited by physical locations. Foley's spark of genius was realizing that the magic of these classes, the charismatic instructors, the thumping bass, and the shared community energy, could be digitized and beamed directly into homes. He envisioned a premium stationary bike integrated with a massive, high-definition touchscreen tablet, creating a portal to live-streamed, studio-grade workouts. It was a bold hybrid business model, selling luxury hardware up front, combined with a highly lucrative recurring monthly software subscription. When the pandemic struck in March 2020, the global economy ground to a sudden halt. Gyms, yoga studios, and fitness centers closed their doors overnight, leaving millions of health-conscious people trapped inside their homes with no way to burn off their anxiety. For Peloton, this terrifying global crisis transformed into an unprecedented gold rush business opportunity. Almost overnight, demand for their luxury stationary bikes absolutely skyrocketed. Order books filled up faster than their supply chain could physically handle, creating a massive backlog. Peloton bikes instantly became the ultimate suburban status symbol. If you owned one, you weren't just exercising. You were surviving the quarantine in luxury. The company's stock price surged toward the heavens, climbing from under $20 to an astronomical high of over $160 per share. Peloton was no longer just a fitness brand. It was the undisputed poster child of the pandemic economy. With demand wildly outpacing supply, customers began experiencing grueling wait times of several months just to get their hands on a bike. Rather than viewing the stay-at-home boom as a temporary bubble, Peloton's leadership made a fateful, multi-billion-dollar bet. They assumed this explosive growth would last forever. To solve their shipping delays, the company went on an aggressive spending spree. They acquired their primary manufacturer, Tonic Fitness Technology, and poured nearly $500 million into acquiring Precor, a massive commercial fitness equipment company, solely to gain access to their United States factories. They even announced plans to build their own massive, state-of-the-art manufacturing plant in Ohio, dubbed the Peloton Output Park. This was a classic corporate misstep, building permanent, expensive infrastructure to solve a temporary surge in demand. Peloton was aggressively scaling its physical footprint just as the world prepared to open back up. Just as Peloton was pouring millions into expanding its physical empire, a devastating crisis struck that shook the company's core. In early 2021, horrific reports began to emerge about the brand's premium treadmill, the Tread Plus. Government regulators issued an urgent safety warning after discovering that dozens of children and pets were being pulled, pinned, and sucked underneath the machine's heavy, slatted rubber belt. Tragically, one 6-year-old child died. Instead of responding with immediate empathy and swift recall action, Peloton's leadership fiercely pushed back, calling the government warning inaccurate and misleading. This tone-deaf corporate defensive posture triggered massive public outrage, turning what was once a beloved, friendly brand into a corporate villain overnight. Under immense regulatory pressure, the company was forced into a humiliating about-face, issuing a massive product recall that cost millions and permanently damaged its public image. By mid-2021, the world began to witness the dawn of the highly anticipated post-lockdown era. With vaccines rolling out globally, people were desperately eager to escape their living rooms travel, and return to physical social gyms. Almost instantly, the massive wave of digital demand that had propelled Peloton to astronomical heights completely evaporated. Suddenly, the company found itself crushed under the weight of its own massive overexpansion. The expensive factories, the massive stockpiles of excess parts, and the newly acquired Precor warehouses were now giant bleeding liabilities. Instead of waiting months for a bike, customers were cancelling orders in droves. Peloton was stuck with hundreds of millions of dollars in premium inventory that absolutely nobody wanted. The company had built a permanent production engine for a temporary pandemic, and the financial toll was about to be devastating. As bleeding financial losses mounted into hundreds of millions of dollars, Peloton's executive board had to face a harsh reality. By early 2022, the company officially entered full panic mode, announcing a massive corporate restructuring plan to aggressively slash $800 million in annual operational costs. This sudden financial restructuring dealt a devastating blow to the workforce, resulting in the immediate termination of 2,800 global employees, roughly 20% of its entire corporate staff. In a heartbreaking twist of corporate irony, laid-off employees were given a single year of free Peloton app membership as part of their severance package. But the deepest cut of all happened at the very top. Under intense pressure from activist investors, visionary co-founder and CEO John Foley was forced to step down from his leadership throne, replaced by seasoned finance executive Barry McCarthy. Under its new leadership, Peloton had to face an agonizing identity crisis. It was no longer the exclusive, ultra-luxury hardware club that it once proudly claimed to be. To survive, the company completely reversed its core business model. It slashed the high retail prices of its iconic connected bikes and took the radical step of launching a hardware rental program, allowing consumers to lease a bike monthly without a steep upfront investment. In an even more shocking move, Peloton began selling its premium products on Amazon and inside physical Dick's Sporting Goods stores, completely destroying its hard-built aura of direct-to-consumer exclusivity. Barry McCarthy aggressively tried to pivot the corporate machine away from being a luxury hardware company, pushing instead to rebrand Peloton as a software-first app company open to anyone with a smartphone, regardless of what fitness bike they owned. By forcing a hard pivot towards software, Peloton ran straight into a brutal new reality: the highly competitive content trap. In the hardware world, a luxury bike acted as a physical lock-in mechanism. Once a customer spent thousands on the bike, they were psychologically committed to paying for the membership. But in the crowded smartphone app store, Peloton was suddenly competing directly with tech behemoths like Apple Fitness Plus, Nike Run Club, and thousands of free YouTube workout channels. The company had to spend staggering amounts of cash on music licensing rights and ultra-premium salaries for its celebrity instructors just to keep users from clicking "cancel subscription." Did you stick with your digital fitness apps after the pandemic, or did you drop them entirely? Let me know in the comments below. Despite desperate efforts to reposition the brand, Peloton's subscriber numbers steadily began to plateau, exposing a painful truth. It is incredibly difficult to charge luxury prices for an app when consumers have an endless sea of cheaper digital alternatives right at their fingertips. Peloton's spectacular rise and dramatic fall is a masterclass in the dangers of confusing a temporary macroeconomic anomaly with permanent consumer behavior. The ultimate lesson here is about scalability and adaptability. Instead of remaining agile, Peloton anchored themselves to permanent, massive infrastructure costs during a fleeting global lockdown. They assumed the pandemic boom was their new normal, falling victim to corporate hubris. For entrepreneurs and investors, the takeaway is clear: never build a long-term foundation on short-term hype, and always listen to the market when it signals a shift. What is your biggest takeaway from Peloton's rollercoaster journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more incredible business breakdowns, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on any of our future videos.